Welcome and good night. Tonight's story is going to be "The People Could Fly." It's an American Black folk tales, and it's told by Virginia Hamilton. About this book, it is my favorite book from childhood, my absolute favorite. I fell in love with this as a little kid, so much so that I bought it for all my children and for my grandkids. So I hope you guys enjoy it as well. All right. Okay, this is a good one. Tonight's story is going to be The Two Johns. There was these two, Big John and Little John. They each had a wife. Big John had two horses that were fine horses. Little John had one horse that was sick. It wasn't any good at all. Big John said one day to Little John, "If that horse of yours whinnies all night again, I will have to kill it." The horse did, and Big John did. He killed that horse of Little John's. Little John skinned the horse and cured the hide. Then he went away. He went walking far. He got cold and he went to a house for shelter. The woman came to the door and says, "Well, who are you?" "I'm Little John," he says. "I'm cold. Can you let me come in?" Woman says, "No, because my husband is away." So she shuts the door on Little John. He has to stand out there in the cold. Because the husband comes home, finds Little John there, shivering in the cold. The wife comes. He says to his wife, "Why are you leaving this man outside in the cold?" "Well, you weren't here," she tells her husband. "I couldn't let him in." "Well, let him in now," says the husband. So the husband, with Little John wrapped in a horsehide, walk inside. They sit down at the table to eat. Little John puts the horsehide under his feet. "I don't have nothing. I don't have nothing but tea, and it's gone cold." Little John is working his feet on the hide. He is stamping the hide hard with his feet. "What you doing there?" the man asks Little John. "Is that hide trying to talk to you?" Little John says, "Hide says, go to the sideboard and you'll find food." The man got up. He went to the sideboard there. He found food within, plenty of food. "What else is your horse hide saying?" asked the man. Little John says, "Go back there. There's wine in there." The man goes back to the sideboard and he finds the wine. "Oh, please sell me your horse hide," the man begged. "Well, I'll sell it to you for 2 baskets of money," said Little John. So he just did. Then Little John told the man to give him back the hide, and he would show him something more. He got it back and pressed his foot on it. He told the man, "Go in the next room. Look in the barrel. There's something there for you to see." The man does it. He looks in the barrel and sees the devil. He covers it up again. Little John had started on his way. "Come back," said the man. "Come take the barrel and I'll give you double." So Little John came back. He took the devil from the barrel and he got double money for his task. Little John went home. He sent over to Big John's for a basket to measure his money. After he had measured it, he sent the basket back. But 2 silver coins had somehow got stuck in the basket. Big John saw them. "What was it you measuring in the basket?" Big John wanted to know. "I was measuring the money I got from my horse you killed," Little John said. "I measured more than 3 baskets of money." "More than 3 baskets of money for that sad, weak horse?" said Big John. "I can get more than 4 baskets for my 2 fine horses." Big John went home and killed his 2 fine horses as soon as he got there. He cut off their skins, tied them, and hoisted them on his back. Then he went off. He went to the city and he cried out all along, "I got horsehide, raw horsehide. Who wants to buy?" Big John could find no one to buy his raw horsehides. He went on back home. Found Little John, said, "I'm going to kill you for your lies, Little John." "Well, you never did it right," said Little John. "You have to cure the horsehides. Then you can sell them." "I'm going to kill your grandmother now," said Big John. And he did. He killed Little John's good grandmother. He put her in a chair and wheeled her to the store in the town and left her. Little John comes along to the store. He asks the storekeeper for a drink. He turns to his grandmother. Grandmother, if you weren't asleep, I surely would give you a drink too. Well, why don't you wake her up? Says the storekeeper. Well, I never like to do that, says Little John. So the storekeeper, he did it. He went up to her, he shook her, and she fell off the chair. What have you done? Said Little John. You killed my grandmother. Oh, don't tell, said the storekeeper. I'll give you some money if you don't tell anyone. So the storekeeper paid to bury Little John's grandmother, and he gave Little John 2 baskets of money. Little John, he went home, asked to borrow Big John's basket to measure. Little John still didn't have his own basket, but there were 2 pieces of money slipped in the sides when he returned the basket to Big John. Where did you get some more money? Big John asked Little John. I sold my grandmother for 2 baskets of money, Little John told him. See how it is? Every bad thing you do to me turns out good. You killed my horse, and it turned out good. You killed my grandmother, and it turned out good again. Big John went on home. He thought about killing his own grandmother. He planned it out. My grandmother's much fatter and bigger than Little John's. I could get 6 baskets of money for her. So Big John killed his grandmother. He put her on his back, went all into the city, said, who wants to buy a dead woman? Who wants a dead grandmother? I'll sell her to you for 6 baskets of money. Well, the man in charge of the city heard about it. They was after Big John now, so they were chasing him all around. He dropped the body and ran back home. Big John went over to Little John's house and said, you made me kill my grandmother, Little John. I got no 1 basket of money for her. Now I have to kill you. Big John got Little John into a sack. Wasn't hard. Big John was big and strong, and Little John was so little. He put the sack on his back and went on. Now Big John passed by the church and he thought, well, I ought to go in, get a pardon for my sins for what I'm about to do to Little John. So Big John went into the church. He left the sack of Little John outside. And a herdsman came passing by with his cows. What are you doing in that sack, Little John? He says. Well, they put me in here to throw me away in the sea, says Little John. They're doing it because I won't marry the king's daughter. Now that wasn't the truth, but that's what Little John told him. Little John goes on, I sure don't know how to eat with a knife and fork, so how can I marry the king's daughter? I'm not going to, that's all. The herdsman, he says, oh, I know how to eat with a knife and a fork. I'll marry her. I'll marry the king's daughter. Well, get in the sack, says Little John. And the herdsman, like a fool, gets in the sack while Little John gets out. Little John took over everything the herdsman had, took his cows and his coat too, and Little John took them home. Big John came out of the church. He picked up the sack and found it wasn't heavy. Said, this sack is lighter because I've been pardoned of my sins. Big John went there to the water. He found his boat and he loaded the sack in. He went out to the sea and dumped the sack. Big John came back and went home. He saw Little John passing along with his cows wearing a new coat. See, that's how it is, Little John told him. Everything bad you do to me turns around and comes back good. You kill my horse, it turned to good. You killed my grandmother. That turned out good too. You put me in a sack and threw me away in the sea. It was way below the water. I found these many cows in this coat. Well, I was wrong, Big John said. So put me in a sack and throw me in the sea. Throw me as far and as deep as you can so I can get more coats and more cows. So Little John put Big John in a sack and took him way on the sea. Each time Little John stopped to throw the sack of Big John into the water, Big John would say, no, go further, Little John, go further. Big John said that 3 times, and 3 times Little John had to go further out on the water. At last he was far enough. This is it. This is the place, said Big John. Throw me out. So Little John threw Big John way out deep in the sea, and then Little John rolled back to shore. He got out, took up the empty sack, and went home. He had a good life, and it was peaceful. So about this story, this is a Black Portuguese tale of grisly realism with variants in Spanish and English from Louisiana, Puerto Rico, the Bahamas, and the Philippines. It is at once a comic and outrageously gruesome tale, and it is cousin to the Foolish John and Wise John tales from Louisiana, where the little man is smart and the big man is a fool. Well, I hope you enjoyed tonight's story. Again, it was The Two Johns. If you liked it, please subscribe. Thank you. Have a good night.